those who do not remember me, my name is Brittany Swaggart, and I decided to do a video discussion post for the Carl Rogers Book Club discussion board this week. One of the biggest takeaways that I got from the reading, and especially reading the article, I got to learn a lot more about the 6 conditions that Carl Rogers put in place for his person-centered therapy. I finally got to kind of go in depth a little bit more and really see the focus on the idea of like letting clients think for themselves, and how that kind of stemmed from what Carl Rogers did with his clients, and taking in the idea of congruence. It wasn't really a concept that I had understood before, and I had to do a little bit more further research this week to kind of truly understand it. But basically what I interpreted from it was hiding feelings, which is not something that a therapist or a counselor should do. And we had talked about that before in class and everything, but this week it kind of made me think, and kind of goes along with the last question listed for this discussion board, talking about, do I believe that all of the conditions are completely necessary for change. It is very conditional, and he goes on to explain that in the article that we read too. Along those same lines, the idea of the unconditional positive regard kind of left me questioning a few things, especially because in the article itself, Carl Rogers specifically mentions that unconditional positive regard is actually conditional, which was very confusing for me for a while. I had to do more research on that too. But I also understand now, and this is also one of my other takeaways, is to kind of shoot for that goal, to kind of not put you or your client in a situation where there might be conditional positive regard or negative regard. I can see myself using parts of the person-centered therapy in my future career, especially because I want to work with eating disorder patients eventually, which is a big population that really, a lot of people entering into counseling for that issue don't want to be there, or don't think that they should be there, or don't think that they have a problem. In that way, I can see myself using, at least initially, the person-centered therapy just to get them thinking about, okay, what is hidden within myself that I haven't really thought about? What do I need to figure out about myself? What am I truly doing to my body? That kind of thing. I thought that, first of all, the Gloria tapes are very fascinating. I watched the whole thing, and I've watched the Gestalt ones too, because I just thought it was so interesting to see it in action, to kind of get that real-world experience a little bit, even though I wasn't part of it. But it was super interesting to see how Carl Rogers used PCT in his counseling session, however short it was, with Gloria. And talking about, in the beginning, he was talking about all the things that he hopes to achieve through this particular type of therapy, and I wrote them all down, and I went through and checked off the ones that he had completed, and I'm pretty sure the one I didn't check off was to prize herself, was his concept. But, she was definitely willing to explore hidden parts of herself. She willingly gave them up. She talked about all parts of her childhood. She went way back in depth, and that was only in a 30-minute session. But you can also see the change in her congruent behavior with Carl Rogers as she's going on. Like, she comes down in the beginning and she sits and she's completely open, very confident looking, smiling, and then by the end she just looks like her life just fell apart and she doesn't even know what she's doing anymore, and she's talking about things that are happening in the moment, and focusing on what's happening in the moment is a big part of Carl Rogers' theory and his therapy. So the fact that she gained that idea of that immediacy of being in that moment with him and thinking about how she feels now, going from the past tense to the present tense, she was really starting to kind of see where he was going, even though he wasn't directly telling her. Thank you all for listening to my discussion board. I'm looking forward to chatting with you all about what we think. Have a great week.